Hello, everybody. Captain Marty here. Happy Tuesday to you. June the 17th. Things have kind of leveled off a little bit on the fishing front. Still some good fishing to be had. Also, a little bit of difficulty with some weather. But we'll talk about all that when I return in just a moment.
Hi, I'm LB Daniels, and when you want great local seafood, you go to Fresh Catch Seafood in Wanchese. How do I know it's great? My daddy is one of the fishermen that brings it to the docks. At Fresh Catch Seafood, you will get local seafood right from their fish house. They are a family-owned business that knows the name of every fisherman that comes to their docks. Visit their social media pages to see the latest catches. My daddy would love to put his tuna on your dinner plate, so get it now from Fresh Catch Seafood in Wanchese.
Wave Runner Fishing Charters provides exceptional Outer Banks fishing trips for anglers of all experience levels. Captain Brian White's love for fishing began at age 6 and soon evolved into a lifelong passion. Located at Wanchese Marina, the Wave Runner specializes in offshore and nearshore fishing adventures, offering guests the excitement of pursuing a wide range of pelagic species. They have the best rates in town. Call today at 252-216-8350 or online at fishwaverunnerobx.com.
So down in Hatteras, my old buddies down there where I started my career in offshore fishing, well, in North Carolina. I'd done it just a little bit in my hometown of Ponce Inlet, Daytona Beach, Florida, before I came up, but I didn't really learn the true way of doing it until I got to Hatteras. Some of those guys are still down there and still fishing, like Buddy Hooper, for instance. They got blown out yesterday. They didn't do any offshore fishing, but they've been having some very good mahi fishing, also some blackfin tuna, meaning the smaller tuna. They had to give it a rest for a day. I know that my old buddy Jessie on the Carolina Girls, she had a transmission or a clutch go out on her, so she's changing that out. I remember those days too. And like I said on Facebook the other day, if you knew how expensive a repair like that is to bring in a new clutch, I can't even imagine how much one costs nowadays. Pay for the mechanic and the lift to get it in and out of the boat and rebuild it or replace it. You'd understand more about why charters are as expensive as they are, because those boats, our fleet is one of the nicest charter fleets in the world and also one of the nicest overall sport fishing boat fleets, private and charter. But you got to pay to play. You want to ride in style, it's going to cost a little money. So I hope Jessie gets fixed up. She's been a sponsor of mine for a long time. So far, I don't have to start her a GoFundMe account, but she blows the other clutch, we may have to do that. Inshore, a few boats have been slipping out. They're catching some drum, a little bit of other stuff, bluefish and Spanish mackerel around the inlet when they can get out and do that. The Oregon Inlet fleet, they had another nice mixed day. Some boats had mahi or dolphin. Some boats had yellowfin tuna, and some boats had a combination of both. And I would call it very good fishing. The yellowfin tuna are averaging 40 to 45 pounds a piece, and the dolphin are mostly smaller. But man, I tell you what, that's some good grub there too. So that's I did not see in either of the fleets. I did not see any wahoo yesterday. So we're still seeing a few. This is the time of year when the wahoo fishing should peak out a little bit, especially in Hatteras. Of course, they didn't fish, but they have been catching them. But you may remember last year there were days when some of the Hatteras boats had double figures of wahoo. In other words, 10 or more wahoo on a single boat in a single day. And for most offshore sport fishermen, do-it-yourselfers, for instance, to even catch one wahoo is a great accomplishment. We'll keep you posted on all that. Pier and surf fishing, it's really a little bit hard to get too detailed about it. There were a couple bright spots on the piers. On northern beaches, by the way, water temperatures now are at 75 degrees. Thanks to Tony Lombardi from the walkingangler.com. You check that place out if you don't have a boat. It just tells you lots of opportunity for fishing without a boat on the Outer Banks. But Nags Head Pier and Jeanette's Pier seem to have a good morning bite on Spanish mackerel, and all the piers have been doing good at one point or another, depending on when the fish move up and down the beach, on Spanish mackerel and bluefish. There is a plethora of other things being caught on the piers, but in small numbers. That would include sea mullets. There's a few croakers, a few spots, and a few small sharks. The beach fishing from Ocracoke to the Virginia line is almost identical. On every report I checked on yesterday, they all say the same thing. Bluefish, Spanish mackerel, and sea mullet. That's the three biggies. Of course, the blues could be caught on a cut bait or a metal lure. The Spanish mackerel are entirely caught on lures, and the sea mullet again back to cut bait or synthetic bait. So that's typical for this time of year. Remember that the early morning bite and the late evening bite are the best bites. You have to make a decision. You're on vacation, so you might just want to chill out and rest. And if you fish in the middle of the day and the fish aren't biting because it's so hot, well, that's all right. You're on vacation. And remember, what Alan used to always say down at Tradewinds Tackle in Ocracoke is the best time to go fishing is when you can. So, when you got your family with you and stuff. But ideally, the way to do it is to let the kids sleep in and get out on the beach right at first light, and then come back and take them all to breakfast at one of our many nice restaurants, or in the evening, take advantage of the early dinner specials, and then put them in front of their tablet and say, watch this, and then you sneak out the door and you go back down to the beach or out on a pier and do a little fishing. On the piers, you'll need no fishing license. On the beach, you definitely will need a fishing license, so make sure you're legal. Now, we'll take a little break right here, and we'll be back in just a moment to talk about the backcountry.
Boasting phenomenal seafood dishes, a great menu, and waterfront views with deck seating, Striper's Bar and Grill at the Shallowbag Bay Marina in Manio serves a casual, fun-filled dining experience with an Outer Banks flair. With 3 floors to choose from, you're bound to find the perfect seat for you and yours while enjoying great food and fantastic drinks. To see our menu and to catch a glimpse of the beautiful views, go online to stripersbarandgrill.com. Striper's Bar and Grill at the Shallowbag Bay Marina in Manio, where everyone's a VIP.
No breaking news from the backcountry. It's holding its own. A small group of boats, especially guided professionals, are out there and they are catching red drum in all the size classes. A few puppy drum in the slot, meaning you can keep 1 per person per day. Some over the slot, some between the slot and what I would call a yearling. Some 30-inch fish and up. And then a few of the yearlings, and we're seeing more and more of the actual big drum getting established on the shoals like they do this time of year back in the Sound. So that's going on. Also, speckled trout bite is good, and everybody really counting the days down to the beginning of reopening of the speckled trout season on July 1st. And then bluefish. And I know some people are like, bluefish? Well, so what? Well, let me tell you something. If I had a bucket full of fresh tailor bluefish right now that had been iced down really good, I would have me a mighty fine lunch today, because a Taylor bluefish, at least in our waters, is really, really good to eat. So that's really about nothing new back there in the Sound. I do want to encourage you, if you want to try something new, if you're following our reports and you're visiting the Outer Banks or know you're coming to the Outer Banks, wade fishing is the way to go. I mentioned that Tony Lombardi does the walkingangler.com website, but there's there a lot of information on how to wade fish. You got the whole length of Hatteras Island. You got to make sure you have permission to access the Sound on public areas. Be careful about going on private property. You also have Roanoke Island all the way around. Down south of Wanchese, north of Manio, there's plenty of places to fish. And then even back of Ocracoke, same thing. And even over on the western Pamlico, over Swan Quarter and up and down the shoreline over here, also very, very good. And as a piece of news, I will be heading down to Hatteras for the Hatteras Marlin Club Tournament. That'll be my second big tournament. A lot of the boats that were in the Big Rock will be fishing that. And first fishing day is Monday, and they fish 4 out of 6 days, Monday through Saturday. That's a private club. Most people don't even realize it exists in Hatteras, but it's nice. It's like a country club on the water. I'll be bringing you updates. That's definitely a bragging rights tournament, and it's actually where I fished my very first day when I came up on the day I graduated from high school in Florida. I kissed my mom and dad goodbye, hopped in my van because it was the middle 70s. It was 1975. Everyone had a van. That's why you can never get a date, because no father would ever let you date their daughter when you owned a van, but that's another point. Anyway, I drove all night long to get up here and found work in the same tournament, the Hatteras Marlin Club Tournament, and went out fishing, and that was the first time as a crew member I'd ever caught a marlin, and it was a white marlin. So all that'll be going on. And I'll be bringing you updates right here all next week. So you just keep tuning in, and we appreciate you joining us each and every day. You know what? This is a great day to be alive. I hope the good Lord will bless you all day long.